welcome to Loftside Bantr. This is your host, Andrew Diamantopoulos, and I'm just going to say right off the bat that we're going to do a ton of NFL draft stuff today. There's going to be a ton of information. You're going to hear all about it. I've taken the time after the draft to make this, to read, to kind of piece it all together because, you know, I want to see what all the scouts are saying because obviously I'm pretty isolated up here in my loft. But I went through a ton of information from the NFL. Read scouting reports, have given my opinion, and I'd like to hear from you. So let me know what your favorite team is and what you think of their draft. To me, every fan talks themselves into, what a great draft, what a great draft. You know, there might be a few that are like, wow, we only had 5 picks, 6 picks, maybe we can do this. But for the most part, everybody gets excited after the draft. So we'll go through all of that different stuff. You can join us on now TikTok for Loftside Bantr. You can search for it there. You can search for it on x.com, Loftside Bantr there as well. And of course, www.loftsidebanter.com. Again, that's BANTR. So loftsidebanter.com. Welcome back to Loftside Bantr, the podcast where real fans will bring real takes with no filters. I'm your host, Andrew Diamantopoulos, and today we're diving into our full NFL draft review. We're going to go team by team, breaking down what we loved, what made us scratch our heads a little bit, and we're handing out grades for all 32 teams. If you're a fan of smart football talk and hope, because the NFL draft always brings you hope, you're in the right place. Before we jump in, make sure to subscribe to the show on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening right now. Don't forget to leave a rating and review if you're enjoying what we put out. You can also check us out at loftsidebanter.com. That's loftsidebanter.com for past episodes, some updates. The website is kind of in its early stages, so give us some time and we'll make it look really nice and everything else. I wanted to get it out so that way there was a bit of information out there for everybody. And also loftsidebanter@gmail.com. Again, that's loftsidebanter@gmail.com. All right, let's get the draft review started.
With the first pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.
Hello and welcome to Loftside Banter's NFL Draft Review. As the opening probably told you, we're going to go through each and every team. We're going to go through alphabetical order. So whereas the prompt just said with the first pick of the NFL draft, we're actually going to go in alphabetical order so that we don't miss anybody, don't confuse anybody, and you can kind of figure out where you want to listen to for your team going forward. So as of right now, the draft overall didn't really produce any really bad grades, at least in my opinion. I've done a little bit of reading throughout the NFL, you know, all the different sports kind of commentators, and listen to a whole bunch of different people give their grades so that way we could kind of go through and figure out mine. Now, the reason being that there's no real terrible grades is because the draft was very deep as far as finding players that could probably start from day one. It didn't have a ton of those blue chip players, as I discussed in that pre-draft special that I put out a few days ago. That means you're going to get a lot of A, Bs, and Cs. There's nothing really below a C because I think the players that were brought in, or at least what teams had picked through different areas, they were really kind of a good mixture. There wasn't a ton to separate them. Now, I feel that some teams maybe reached for a few things. I feel that some teams drafted something that maybe they didn't need. You know, I'm kind of that 50-50 guy. So for me, you're drafting for need, but you're also drafting best available. You're trying to find what works by balancing those two. Obviously, it's easier said than done. But if you're a team that struggled on defense and there are some players available that can help your defense, especially this year. Like I said, there was not a ton of separation from a second-round pick to maybe a fifth-round pick. So from there, if you're drafting something that you already have an abundance of, I didn't really like that pick. Now, each scouting team is a little different. Each team looks at everything a little different. Obviously, I'm just a guy sitting here, but from what I see and from what I've dealt with as a fan and the opinions I have, if you're drafting something that you have an abundance of, it's a wasted pick. Or at least you gave up an opportunity to bring in somebody that would help you in a specific need. So that was kind of the criteria I had for looking at all these things. And again, I went through a lot of scouting reports. I listened to a whole bunch of different people. That's why this is coming out a few days after the draft, because I wanted to make sure I went through and read what a lot of different people had to say. Because every fan base is going to look at every draft and go, this was the best. This was it. It happens every year. You talk yourself into these great drafts. I did it last year with the New England Patriots. I thought they had a great draft. The players that they picked up and put in there sucked this year. At least most of them did. Or they went through injury problems or whatever the case may be. We obviously don't know this early on how good some of these players are going to be. We can make speculations. That's what I'm here to do, is I'm here to speculate what I think each team did, but use the knowledge that I had from at least scouting reports and everything else to kind of make that prediction of how good this draft class could be.
Pick of the Cardinals could be another receiver.
With the 16th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select.
So without further ado, we'll start with the Arizona Cardinals, which I gave an A. I gave them an A because they needed to focus on defense, which they did for the first 2 days completely in this draft. The first really good pick I like was their first round pick at 16th overall out of Ole Miss, the defensive tackle Walter Nolan. He was the number 1 overall high school recruit from his class. He creates great pressure from the interior defensive line spot, and his skill set is there to be great. So he has all the skills to be a great defensive tackle. So I think it was a good pick at 16. I think he has tremendous upside. Their next pick was Will Johnson from Michigan. Now, injuries really made Will Johnson drop. A lot of people thought he was going to be a top 10 pick, and they were able to get him in the second round at 47. He's a big, fluid corner that has really great talent at covering a number 1 wide receiver. He's injury prone, hence why he dropped. By the way, I'm saying all this and I'm hearing Mel Kiper's voice in my head while I do all of this. The one thing that I think negatively about his game is he has a lot of greed going after the ball. He can be susceptible to double moves. So if a wide receiver goes up, cuts, and then cuts back up, he's susceptible to those moves because he wants to make a play on the ball, which, again, a lot of great corners do, but he's very susceptible to that. We've seen it at Michigan. Cody Simon, the linebacker out of Ohio State, they picked in round 4 at 115. Always seems to find a ball, is making a ton of tackles each game. He can play inside or outside linebacker, so a lot of versatility there, and they can put him where he's very successful. And then their 7th round pick was Katan Crawford out of Nevada. Now, he was a steal in the 7th round. He had about a 4th or 5th round grade, so you're getting him 2 rounds later than what a lot of people had said. He should or could be the nickelback his rookie season. So I think at a 7th round, 225th pick to get a guy that can be your nickelback first year is great value for them. So I think the Arizona Cardinals did really well. They're one of the A's that I gave out for this draft. The lone offensive guy they got was in their 6th round, Hayden Connor, the guard from Texas. Great to add protection to the offensive line. But if that's your only offensive pick, Arizona struggled a lot all around. So, again, what they're going to do offensively, but defense was a big need for them this year.
With the 15th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select.
So for the second straight year, the Atlanta Falcons did something that most people are like, what the hell is going on? Last year, it was drafting Michael Penix Jr., I believe 9th overall, when you had just signed Kirk Cousins. Come to find out, it was because, A, they wouldn't really want it to be in a position where if Kirk Cousins goes down, they have nobody. Because they struggled with Desmond Ridder for a couple of years. Michael Penix Jr. is going to be the starter this year. And he looked okay in the time that he was in. I mean, he looked good. Let's say what it is. He looked good. But it was very small sample size. So for this year, they needed a pass rush. They had obviously made a trade with the New England Patriots for Matthew Judon, which did not work out. They traded a third-round pick. He's no longer on the team. He's still a free agent, actually. They ended up going Jalen Walker from Georgia at 15, one of the better edge rushers in this draft. And then they traded back into the first round for James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee at 26. So you gave up a first-round draft pick for next year for a later first-round pick this year. I mean, you got a third back in return, which was great because they ended up getting Xavier Watts from Notre Dame, the safety, at 96. So they kind of really needed that pick. And Xavier Watts was one of only 2 players in this draft that were unanimous AP All-Americans, the other one being Travis Hunter, which will go in when we get to Jacksonville. So they doubled up on edge rushers in the first round. Third and fourth round were both safeties. And then the 7th round, they got an offensive tackle from Wisconsin. So again, only 5 picks this whole draft. So they get a C. They get a C for this. You know, there's a lot of talent here in those first 3 picks. So hopefully they pan out for them, because if they spent as much as they did to go back in to get James Pierce Jr. and it doesn't pan out. Now, James Pierce Jr. was supposed to be like a number 1 overall pick early on in the season. He looked really good. And then he slowly dropped and dropped and dropped. Obviously, things happen throughout a year and everything else, but again, I like who they got. It's just, again, with only 5 picks and everything else like that, it was very difficult to give him anything more than a C, especially with as confusing as a move as that may be.
With the 27th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select.
So the Baltimore Ravens always seem to have great drafts. They don't ever seem to force anything. They always seem to let draft boards come to them, which is one of the 2 things that, again, I'm trying to balance from my perspective. But they just always seem to let, hey, you know, we're going to let this develop and we're going to take the best player available and it's going to fit with our system and he's going to be really good. And it's very frustrating. Again, a Patriots fan, Ravens have always been a thorn in their side for many, many years. So to see them continuously do well and to find players kind of towards the end of the first round where the Patriots sometimes have struggled to find stuff at the top of the first round, and other teams have probably felt that way as well. Out well, they just seem to find talent where, you know, sometimes there may be questions, and then they develop them into great players. I mean, Malachi Starks, if he's not going to be a star for them in that safety position where the Ravens always seem to have great safeties, then I don't know, I don't know what's going on in this world. But Malachi Starks was, part of the national championship Georgia team as a freshman. He was a 2023 first team All-American. He was a second team All-American last year, second team All-SEC. Then they go out in the second round and they get edge rusher Mike Green from Marshall, where he started his career in Virginia. Real nasty streak with him. He's just one of those guys that's just, he's going to hit you, and he's going to hit you hard. Mike Green dropped because of character issues his redshirt sophomore year, and then he wasn't on the team in Virginia. And there was really no reason given why. And I haven't been able to find it. So if somebody has that information, that'd be great to know. But it was a character issue that let him drop. I also love their picks in the third round of Emory Jones Jr., the offensive tackle from LSU. And then, interesting enough, in the sixth round, they picked kicker Tyler Loop from Arizona. Now, if you remember correctly, Justin Tucker's probably going to be in some legal issues going along this season. And he struggled mightily last season. It looked like it was the drop-off off the cliff for Justin Tucker, who was considered the best kicker in the NFL. So they went out and drafted one. It may be the end for Justin Tucker, at least in Baltimore. Now, with all this said, I give Baltimore an A-. And the only reason why I give them an A- is there were some picks in there. I think Carson Vincent, another offensive tackle from Alabama A&M, was probably a little high for him. Robert Longerbeam from Rutgers, I believe it is, the cornerback in that sixth round, some issues with him as far as coverage and stuff like that. I give him an A-. Obviously all of them are going to be good. What are we talking about? The Ravens always seem to draft anybody anywhere, and they seem to do really well.
With the 30th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills select.
The Buffalo Bills are up next, and I gave them a B-. There was a good spread on offense and defense as far as their picks. Just some of them had some question marks for me. I really love the pick of Deion Walker, the defensive tackle from Kentucky. He was a round 4 pick, I think he was 109th. Dorian Strong, cornerback from Virginia Tech, round 6. Chase Lund, offensive tackle from the University of Connecticut in round 6. And Caden Prather, the wide receiver from Maryland in round 7. I liked all those picks, especially where they were getting them. Walker, he has elite size and strength. He's 6'7", 331 pounds. If he has great coaching, he can use that size to be unstoppable. He could probably be one of, if not the best defensive tackle in the draft. He just needs a little bit of work. And I say a little bit, he probably needs a lot more work. He dropped to round 4. From there, Dorian Strong, he's an experienced, smart, and has good size as a corner. Seems to be a little slow in changing direction. So again, can he work on that in his footwork and everything else? Chase Lund, 6'7", 304, a massive human being. He was a right tackle, a 4-year starter with 300 plus snaps. So he has the experience and has played all the way through his college career. Now, UConn has never been a top, college football team. Obviously, they're more known for their basketball. But he has average lateral quickness and footwork. So again, something to work on with him. Prather, tall wide receiver. He had a 4.46 40-yard dash. He can carry tacklers, but he's not going to beat anybody for a deep threat. He's not the best with that. Doesn't have the surest hands with stuff like that. I really didn't like Maxwell Harrison in round 1. He's a cornerback under Kentucky, so he double dipped in the Kentucky pool of talent. He's not really good at run support. He's below average as far as an open field tackler. So if you got him one-on-one, chances are you're probably going to break his tackle. Landon Jackson also, I'm not a huge fan of Landon Jackson. Now, I've some of this stuff with some of the clips I saw of his, practice and stuff like that, getting through like the bags and stuff like that, and he looked terrible. Obviously, he's cleaned that up. He was their 3rd round pick, 72nd overall out of Arkansas. He has the ability to be a great edge rusher. Just not my favorite prospect in this draft. So, again, I think they put together a lot of really good talent later on in the draft. I think Maxwell Hairston is going to struggle a little bit off the bat. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen a whole lot of, and the things about being a cornerback and being able to tackle and being able to help support the run, he doesn't do very well, at least not yet.
With the 8th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select.
So the Carolina Panthers had the 8th pick, picked Tet McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona. I like that pick. I really think Tet McMillan is going to be a very good wide receiver in this league. He was the offensive player that, if he was still there, that I hoped the Patriots would pick kind of in that range if they didn't go the direction they did. The Panthers, however, are going to get a C. They needed defense. They really needed defensive help, and they decided to go wide receiver. Last year, they picked up Xavier Legette at 32, so they've gone wide receiver the past 2 years, which seems like a very weird strategy to me. Bryce Young had to be benched last year, came back in, has looked good towards the end of the year, so now the Panther fans have some, hey, maybe we do have a quarterback. So getting him some weapons is never a bad thing. One of the other picks I really liked from him was Lathan Ransom, the safety out of Ohio State. I, again, had said in my pre-draft episode that I liked him coming out of that safety class, more of a later round guy. There's no real dislikes, but it just seemed to draft out of order. Could have used those 2 edge rushers they got in the 2nd and 3rd round, probably a little bit earlier. They also were kind of looking for a tight end at some point. They had 2 on the board that they could have taken at 8, decided not to. And then, again, you had to go double up on that edge rush in 2 and 3. Then, they needed some cornerbacks too, and they just didn't draft any. So, Ransom in that safety position, again, I think is kind of a steal in that 4th round. Cam Jackson, the defensive tackle out of Florida, in the 5th round. They didn't get their tight end to the 5th round. So again, I think they did some stuff out of order. And then in the 6th round, they got Jimmy Horn Jr. So if anybody remembers Jimmy Horn, he used to be a wide receiver in the NFL. Again, it just seemed like they did a little like double dipping in the wide receiver department. If you like Ted McMillan at 8, why did you have to go wide receiver again in the 6th when you clearly have defensive needs? Now, I'm not saying you're going to get the greatest thing in the world. Granted, Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick, so it does happen. But again, throw some bodies on that defense. See if you get something that works really well in your system. Somebody that can develop, and that way you don't have to go looking again for those defensive players. So again, Carolina, kind of a C. Not that I disliked anything. It's just, it didn't seem like they let the board come to them. They kind of reached for some things.
So with the 10th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select.
Obviously, a lot of boos coming out of Green Bay this year for when Chicago was up. The Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears are obviously very big rivals. But Chicago had the 10th pick this year. They ended up going with Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan. Really liked the pick, especially Ben Johnson being the new head coach. He was the offensive coordinator for the Lions last year, used a ton of 2 tight end sets. So already having Cole Kmet, they now add that other piece to that offense. One of their biggest needs in the offseason was addressing that offensive line. Now, they did that through the early free agency periods, really address those needs, which means they could go out and look at other positions through this draft. And I thought they did a great job. Some of the other picks I really liked for them was Luther Burden, the wide receiver out of Missouri, round 2 at 39. Ozzie Trapilo, the offensive tackle from Boston College, that he was drafted in the 2nd round. Some people say a little bit of a reach. I really liked him, being able to watch him from BC. Za Frazier, the cornerback out of Texas San Antonio, in round 5. Those were really kind of some good picks. Then the one I really didn't like with the Bears was Ruben Hippolyte, the 2nd from Maryland, the linebacker. Burden, I think, will be a stud in Chicago. Matching him up with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, if he can focus. Now, character issues have come up with him a little bit, but I think he's got the skill set to be a great NFL wide receiver. Trapilo, like I said, solid offensive line help. Will have time to learn behind some people. Za Frazier is tall and fast. I feel that he's a steal in the 5th round. And then Ruben Hippolyte, I think he was drafted way too high. He gets mauled by big blockers, and he has poor zone coverage for a linebacker. Now, he's quick. He can get side to side pretty quickly. So he's considered one of the quickest or fastest linebackers in this draft. Overall, I'd say the Chicago Bears are probably at an A- with these great top-end picks. Luke Newman, the guard from Michigan State later on, and then Shimon Turner from Texas A&M, the defensive tackle, was also a 2nd-round draft pick this year.
With the 17th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select.
Moving on to the Cincinnati Bengals, they needed a ton of help on the defense. As we saw last year, they could score a ton, and they missed the playoffs because they just couldn't stop anybody. They got some good defensive selections at the right times. The talent is there that they can develop and really use these players. I gave them a B. They only had 6 selections, but Shamar Stewart, the Texas A&M edge rusher, at 17. Demetrius Knight Jr. at 49 in the 2nd round. Barrett Carter, a linebacker from Clemson, at 119 in the 4th round. Stewart had a little bit of underwhelming numbers in college as far as production is. I think he's going to outplay that. One pick I really liked that I've actually read quite a bit from other people is that they don't like it and they thought it was a reach was Demetrius Knight Jr., the linebacker from South Carolina. Like I said, he was picked in the 2nd round. He played for Georgia Tech for a few years. He went to Charlotte. He ended up playing 6 years in college, which is a negative as far as where he's coming out and what age. I think he's going to be really good. I really do. He's quick to identify plays and is a natural at shedding blocks. I wouldn't be surprised to see him start on this defense early on in his career. I really wouldn't. He has a little bit of below elusiveness and production as a blitzer, so he's not somebody who's going to get to the quarterback all that often. But I think he has the ability to be a good starter on this defense early. One NFC National Scout said, "I didn't find much that I didn't like about him. He might get dinged for being a 6-year player, but that Alabama game shows you everything you need to see." So if you go back this year and look at the Alabama game he played, having 4 total tackles, 2 of them solo, a sack, 2 tackles for losses. I mean, he was a nightmare for that Alabama offense. Again, I've seen a lot of negative come out for him, but I think the kid's going to be pretty good.
With the 5th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select.
And the award for the most interesting draft goes to the Cleveland Browns again. The move back from the number 2 pick, which ended up being Travis Hunter, to number 5, and to get the haul that they did, kind of realizes that this franchise is not that close to winning, so they needed to just recuperate a lot of picks, throw a lot of bodies into these situations, which is smart. It was a very smart move. I'm going to give them a B only because they just made some strange moves at strange times. Obviously, the biggest news was the Shedeur Sanders drop. He was considered a 1st or 2nd overall pick and ended up going in the 5th round. One of the more guaranteed players was their 1st-round draft pick, Mason Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. A solid player, somebody that is projected to be exactly what he's been in college. On that defensive line, a perfect pick for them. I also like the pick of the running back out of Tennessee, Dylan Sampson. He went in the 4th round. And Shedeur Sanders, you can't not like the pick in the 5th round. I mean, it was 144th overall, so quite a drop from 1 or 2. The one dislike I have from their draft is Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end from Bowling Green. Very productive, just from a small school. Everything that I see, he lacks the strength to be above average blocker. He could develop, though. It's really tough to do in the NFL because going from that small school, if you struggled at a small school trying to block there, you're not going to really get that much better in the NFL because the competition's so much better. They ended up going with Quinshawn Jenkins, the running back out of Ohio State. It was either him or Trayvon Henderson. I'm actually glad the Patriots got Henderson more than Jenkins. And then drafting Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round looked like that, hey, the Browns won't be in for Shedeur Sanders. They traded back up into the 5th round to get him. So now the Browns have 5 quarterbacks on their roster. Deshaun Watson, which this probably spells the end for Deshaun Watson if they can get rid of him without paying him a small fortune. Joe Flacco came back. Kenny Pickett was signed in the offseason. Then you have Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. So it'd be interesting to see what that quarterback room looks like for the first game of the year.
With the 12th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select.
The Dallas Cowboys get an A- from me this year. They did a very un-Cowboy type thing this draft, needing to replace a staple like Zach Martin on their offensive line. They went to bypass the offensive and defensive skill players that have all these amazing attributes that they always reach for and always try to go after, the big name guys. They went with Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama, at the 12th overall pick. I really like the pick. It's pretty solid to be a good replacement for Zach Martin. I also really like the pick of Siobhan Revell Jr., the cornerback out of ECU. He would have gone much higher. He was considered a 1st-round prospect, got injured early this year, and unfortunately dropped because of it. But great skill set. If he comes back healthy, he's got a great skill set. Shamar James, the linebacker out of Florida. I don't dislike him as a player. I just dislike how early he went comparative to a lot of his scouting reports. He was supposed to be kind of the end of the draft type of guy. But picking up a running back at Jadon Blue from Texas in the 5th round as well. They just had a really good draft. Pretty solid at each position. They did double dip for running back, so there's something going on there with the running back room. They're probably going to make some changes with. The other running back was Phil Mafah from Clemson in the 7th round.
All right, with the 20th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select.
The Denver Broncos, next up, they made a great defense better with their 1st-round pick. Jahdae Barron, the cornerback out of Texas, 20th overall. So again, you're stacking a good player on top of what your strength is. And then they were able to go out and find some gems in those mid-rounds to help the offense. The only reason why I'm giving them a B is because I think they spent too much capital on their defense where it's already very good. Now, again, you have to keep retooling. I understand that, but I think the offense needs a little bit more help, especially with Bo Nix coming into his 2nd year, and people have had a year to kind of get used to him and scout him a little bit. But I really like the pick in the 2nd round, 60th overall for R.J. Harvey. He doesn't really have a ton of competition in Denver for that running back position. I think he's going to be a day 1 starter. I really like the pick of Pat Bryant, the wide receiver out of Illinois. They got him in the 3rd round. He's a 6'2" wide receiver, great at reading corners, able to go up and get the ball. He was a projected round 6 player from some people, but I don't really mind that reach because I think he has tremendous upside. The one defensive player that I wasn't too thrilled about them picking, the edge rusher in the 4th round at 134, Quay Robinson out of Alabama. He has a low snap count at Alabama. I thought he would be much later in the draft or even undrafted. He does have the skill set to be a beast of a pass rusher. I think he struggles in a lot of other places. Again, not a huge snap count in college, so we can see that he could develop into something when he gets those reps. So it's kind of a future pick, but they took him in the 4th round.
With the 28th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select.
After a disappointing end to a great season, the Detroit Lions got picked clean in their coaching staff. Offensive and defensive coordinator became head coaches. That's Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. The defensive line coach is now the new New England defensive coordinator. The Lions are going to retool with some freak athletes from this draft. They've went out in free agency and picked up quite a few different people as well. I only give them a C+ for the draft. I really like their 2nd round pick in Tate Rutledge, a good guard prospect that can come in, has the ability to be day 1 starter. The Lions needed a little bit of help on the offensive line between him, and then they also got Miles Frazier from LSU in round 5. I believe they've kind of covered that aspect of what they needed. Now, the one draft pick I don't like, and I wouldn't have liked it for any team that picked him up unless it was desperate for wide receiver help, is Isaac Tissalah, the wide receiver from Arkansas. He just didn't have any production, or at least lackluster production, when he transferred to Arkansas. Now, he came from Hillsdale College, which is a D2 school. He's sluggish with acceleration. He did run a good 40 at a 4.43, and he's 6'4", so he's a big guy. So he has some intangibles going for him. It's just, when you put him on a decent team in the SEC, he just didn't seem to produce anything. So that's my worry, and they traded up to get him. So they might see something that I don't see. Obviously, they have people doing this far more often. But from what I saw in his tape and from what other people were telling me, it seems like this is not going to be a great pick, especially in round 3.
With the 23rd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the 13-time world champion Green Bay Packers.
So the Green Bay Packers are going to get a B for this draft. Now, it was hosted in Green Bay. It looked like it was a lot of fun out there. I had criticized it to some friends. They're like, oh, who wants to go to Green Bay for a draft? Lambeau Field is the perfect place to go and experience a game, but it didn't seem like there would be a whole lot of draft
fun there, but it seemed to, at least over the 3 days, seem pretty fun for a lot of people. Now, for the first time in like 24 years, the Green Bay Packers selected a wide receiver in the first round, where they would go with Matthew Golden out of Texas. Good kid, seems to be a very talented wide receiver. They actually double dipped in wide receiver in round 3 with Sevion Williams out of TCU. But the reason they get a B is they seem to have pushed a lot of the things that they needed to day 3. And it just confused me that they were going with positions that seems to be you have some coverage with. Again, I get retooling, I get everything like that, but you're pushing things that have been glaring needs for a little while to day 3, where your risk of getting, or your upside for some people is lower, obviously. I said in the pre-draft, I really like Anthony Benton as an offensive tackle. He went in round 2 to them at 54th overall. Baron Sorrell, the edge rusher from Texas, in round 4. He waited all 3 days to hear his name called, and he came out and was able to shake the commissioner's hand, which is a very cool moment for him. There were no real dislikes. It just, they left that edge rusher and that cornerback needs till too late for me. They got Micah Robinson out of Tulane in the 7th round, and I thought they were going to go cornerback a lot earlier. They did 2 edge rushers, like I said, Baron Sorrell and Colin Oliver from Oklahoma State. Oliver was picked in round 5. Back to my likes, Anthony Benton, 6'6", left tackle, needs coaching and needs to move faster, as speedy defensive ends will beat him. He can push people over pretty easily, so he can use that size. If he can kind of work on his footwork and get quicker, he's going to be a great left tackle. Baron Sorrell, he waited 3 days, like I mentioned, to come out in front of the Green Bay crowd. He's slow to shed blockers, but he has the strength to figure it out with coaching. He could be a steal in a few seasons. I think he needs a little bit of work around all that stuff, but I think he'll probably start one day on this Green Bay team.
With the 34th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select.
So considering the fact the Houston Texans traded out of the first round completely, they drafted really well for need and best available. So they did a really good job at balancing the two that I look for. They got interesting prospects and added 2 high-profile wide receivers, both from Iowa State, which I thought was pretty cool. I gave Houston an A-. I really like Jaden Higgins. I was hoping he would be there for the Patriots in round 2. He goes 34th overall, so just a few picks before the Patriots. He's got a big body, can go up and get the ball, jump ball passes, great hands, and a very long wingspan. One of the picks I don't like was their 4th round pick at 116, Woody Marks, the the running back out of USC. He isn't going to give you yards after the first hit. He's going to get hit. He's going to get tackled. He lacks that home run speed, so he can't really blow people away and get outside and beat them. He's really good at catching the ball out of the backfield, so that adds a good element to his game. As I mentioned, they got 2 wide receivers from Iowa State. So they got Jaden Higgins, like I mentioned, and then Jalen Noel in the 3rd round. So it's kind of interesting. They were these 2 wide receivers from Iowa State. Some teams had one valued higher than the other and vice versa. They end up getting both of them, which is kind of cool. One of the other prospects I thought was really cool was Graham Mertz, the quarterback out of Florida. They got him in the 6th round. He had gone to Wisconsin for a while. He's had some injury problems. He has a good arm. If he can stay healthy, I'm not saying he'll be a starter someday, but he's a good addition and gives them something a little bit different than normal.
With the 14th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select.
The Indianapolis Colts, I gave a B+. They seem to have gotten some good value from players that dropped a little bit. Tyler Warren in the 1st round, the tight end from Penn State. I really do like him. He was supposed to be kind of top 10, dropped to about 14, so good opportunity to pick him there. I do think they missed some opportunities to help improve their team at some other positions. I really thought defensive line was going to be a need for them, or at least something that they should explore in this draft, and they waited until round 6 to do it. Like I mentioned, Warren is a jack-of-all-trades guy. He played a ton of positions at Penn State last year. One of the other likes from this draft for the Colts was Justin Wally, the cornerback out of Minnesota, in round 3. A bit of a reach, but quick, experienced cornerback who has a lot of good recovery when it caught out of place. So he's really good at making those transitions to get himself in a better position, which is good for a cornerback. The one dislike I really had was Tim Smith, the defensive tackle from Alabama. Round 6, 190th pick, plays his part, but won't blow you away in any category. He just doesn't seem to be great at anything. Okay, he's good at all these different things, but again, for a team that I think needed help on the defensive line, to wait that long to get a defensive tackle was, I think, a mistake.
We have a trade. The Cleveland Browns have traded the second pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with the second pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select.
The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to come in at a B+. And I like what they did. They gave up a lot to move up 3 spots. They got Travis Hunter, which is the best athlete in the draft. He plays wide receiver and cornerback, as you all know, coming out of Colorado. Time will tell whether he's worth it or not. Their new GM seems to think he's a game-changing individual. And if that's the case, yes, the trade makes sense. It was still a lot. Some of the other picks I really like, Wyatt Millum, the guard from West Virginia, they got him in round 3. I thought he was a round 2 prospect. And Rayun Lane, I'm going to hope I said that right, out of Navy in round 6 at pick 200. Millum, a solid offensive tackle who has played both sides. He's going to move into guard in the NFL. He was a second-team AP All-American. Will fit in great with that offensive line, giving some protection for Trevor Lawrence. Probably a day 1 starter. We'll see. Lane, very experienced defensive back, made 43 straight starts, stud on special teams, needs to work on some fundamentals with tackling. But I think, again, in the 6th round, I think you got a guy that is going to be part of your special teams from day 1, and then I think he has the ability to start one day. The one pick I didn't like was Bashal Tutin, the running back out of Virginia Tech. I was never really a huge fan. I'm a little biased because he ran all over Boston College when they played him. But he's had ball security issues. He lacks decisiveness, and in the NFL, which is quicker, you have to be decisive in your runs, because if you just hesitate, you're just going to get stacked up by all the quick talent that's on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL.
With the 32nd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select.
There's a part of me that hates seeing the rich get richer, and the Kansas City Chiefs did that in this draft. They're going to be an A for me. Josh Simmons, I think, has the ability to be the best offensive tackle out of this draft. Injury problems, obviously, so he goes at the end of the 1st round. I really like Jalen Royals, the wide receiver from Utah State. He went in round 4. Jeffrey Bassa, the linebacker from Oregon, in round 5. And Brashard Smith, the running back out of SMU, goes 228 in round 7. So I don't have any dislikes out of all this. Which is the problem for me, because I want to hate what the Chiefs do, but unfortunately I can't. Simmons, like I said, has the ability to be the best offensive tackle in this draft. Injuries in his final year at Ohio State made him drop. Royals, I wanted him on the Patriots. He's got great body control, and he's hard to bring down in the open field. Only 2 years of really full-time player, so he has amazing upside. I thought he'd go earlier. I thought end of round 2, round 3 was probably in his wheelhouse. Jeffrey Bass is a good tackler and a coverage linebacker. Round 5, like I mentioned. And then Brashard Smith, they traded up to get him in round 7. So he's got great start and stop ability as a running back. He was a former wide receiver, so he has great hands. Something that the Chiefs do is throw the ball around to everybody. So to have somebody out of the backfield is really great. So again, I think it's a great fit for them. They always seem to find these running backs that they're just going to kind of keep recycling in and out. And I think he's one of the next ones that is going to have some good numbers in that offense. Unfortunately, again, overall, a great draft for the Chiefs.
With the 6th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select.
The Raiders got a lot of star power and some solid additions in this draft. I'm giving them an A-. I really like Ashton Genty from Boise State going 6th overall, and then Tonka Hemingway, the defensive tackle from South Carolina, in round 4 were the two ones I think they were really great at picking up. The one dislike I have is J.J. Pegas, the defensive tackle from Mississippi. So they double dipped from from the 4th round into the 6th round with defensive tackles. I just think Pegas he's got a good first step, but if he doesn't win off the block, consider him a non-factor. So he's got some work to do in that aspect. Genty's a freak athlete that can run around and through people. We saw it all year last year from Boise State. He also was very close to breaking Barry Sanders' all-time season rushing record. I think he missed it by like 20 yards. And then Tonka Hemingway, which is a great name, by the way. He's a bit of a tweener, but bats a lot of the passes down, so he gets his hands up, needs some work with run stopping. So he's got some work to do, but on those passing downs, putting him in there and knocking down passes and stuff like that, he's going to be valuable early on. One interesting fact, they had a 6th-round draft pick at 213, Tommy Mellott from Montana State, and then 2 picks later they picked quarterback Cam Miller from North Dakota State. Those 2 guys were the starting quarterbacks from the FCS, which is, again, the division below the main Division I football. So that's the FBS. So bowl systems, that they go to the bowl games, is the FBS, and then the championship is the FCS. So both quarterbacks from the FCS National Championship game are drafted by the Raiders in the same round, 2 picks apart. Tommy Mellott projects to be a wide receiver. He's going to train to be a wide receiver. Cam Miller is still coming out of the draft as a quarterback. So pretty cool little fact there.
With the 22nd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select.
So there are a lot of experts that really liked the Chargers draft. I thought it was okay. I gave them a B. They got good prospects with high upside. All fit Coach Harbaugh's style, so that all is a positive. The thing is, I think Jim Harbaugh's style of play is kind of old school at this point. And I like that. Don't get me wrong. I like old school, give a running back 20, 25 touches a game, let him run over some people. But a running back in the 1st round is something of a thing of a past still. I really liked Omarion Hampton. I think he was 2A, 2B right after Gentry in the 1st round. Obviously, you got a guy like Gentry who is the exception to the rule when you're drafting a running back in the 1st round. I think they probably still could have gotten somebody early 2nd round or in the 2nd round that would have fit the need. R.J. Minkins' father Ray played in the NFL. He's a hard hitter, good open field tackler. Scouts kind of doubt his speed. Again, he's a 6th-round draft pick, so I think he has a tremendous upside to him. The dislike from this draft was Keandre Lambert Smith from Auburn. He's a wide receiver. He won't beat anybody deep. He's able to make adjustments well, but I thought there were better wide receivers at this point in time for them to pick. I think a lot of these guys fit Harbaugh's kind of style, but I just think he was a reach at that point in time when there were others available on the board.
With the 46th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams select.
So the Rams get a C from me. They traded out of the 1st round. They did pick up a extra 1st-round pick next year in the 2026 draft. They found some value early, but I think their questions come with the later picks. So, again, they only had 6 of them, so there wasn't a ton to go on. They picked up Terrence Ferguson, the tight end from Oregon, with that 1st pick at 46. I really liked their 3rd-round pick at 90, Josiah Stewart, the defensive end or edge rusher from Michigan. And then the 2 dislikes I have for them are Jarquez Hunter, the running back from Auburn. They got him in round 4. And then Conta Mumpfield, the wide receiver from Pittsburgh, if you will, in round 7. Stewart may have a below-average size for an edge rusher, but plays aggressive and determined, has decent zone coverage skills, so he can drop back off that line and cover kind of a zone area. Hunter, I didn't think this was a need with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum on the roster. His cuts lack sharpness, and he looks below average as a pass catcher, so I don't see a ton of value
in a 4th round pick. And again, with 6, you need to kind of hit on some of these earlier ones. And I still consider 4th round kind of earlier, I guess. Mumfield, not crisp route runner, needs better awareness for the pro level throws. So, again, he's got some work to do to make this roster, in my opinion, especially with the talent they do have at wide receiver.
With the 13th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select.
Next, we come to the Miami Dolphins. And for my wife, this is her favorite team, which is a heartbreak for me, I give them a B-. A lot of questions with how last season went. Maybe a make-or-break time for Coach McDaniel. It seems like a lot of players are not buying into what he's putting out there anymore. He's great with the media. I mean, he's fun to watch in those press conferences, but that doesn't win games. Some of the picks I like, Jason Marshall Jr., the cornerback out of Florida, he went in round 5 at 150. Quinn Ewers, I really do like him as a quarterback. I think he's got to stay healthy, of course. He was picked up in round 7, as well as Zeke Biggers, the defensive tackle from Georgia Tech. One of the dislikes was their first-round draft pick, Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle from Michigan. Marshall dropped due to injuries, has good size and smooth movements to cover routes, needs to stay healthy. That's an ongoing thing with some of these picks here. As you can tell, Miami took some risks kind of later in that draft, but again, they got some good people later in the draft, more so than I think with the beginning of the draft. I think, again, for Grant, he's not super explosive. He has limited range, and he won't run down anybody, so he's got to get pressure from the onset, or else he's not going to be a non-factor, at least in my opinion. I thought Derek Harmon, who went 21st to Pittsburgh, and Walter Nolan, who went 16th, were better options at that point. So I don't know if they just scouted something differently from everybody else, but they seem to be ranked higher at that point in time. So I'm surprised they went the direction that they did. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you he has no talent and he's not going to be a factor and anything else like that. He has every ability to be a great defensive tackle in this league. He's just got to work on those things. And again, with coaching and as shaky as it seemed to be last year with Miami, is he going to get that in that first season? I also, like I mentioned, Quinn Ewers, solid 7-round pickup with questions with Tua and terrible backups last season that they couldn't get any sort of wins going without Tua under center. Could Ewers be that solid cover? Now, he's just a vastly different athlete than Tua is. And then Zeke Biggers at the 7th round defensive tackle. Good size for a 3-4 defensive end. He bats down a lot of passes. He's slow off the jump and has poor sack and pressures as a rusher. So, again, more of that rush defensive kind of tackle is probably what he's going to project to be in this league. So, I think he has the ability to be a really good run stuffer. Again, if you're looking for him to gather all that pressure on a quarterback, you're probably missing the point of the type of player he is.
With the 24th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select.
So the Minnesota Vikings get a lower grade of a C+ because they only had 5 picks. And I really felt that defense was a bigger need for them, but they went offense for the first 2 picks. So in the first round at 24, they go with the guard, Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. Great offensive lineman. Will be very good in this league. Will probably start from day 1. He's also played left tackle after Josh Simmons was hurt. Has below average agility, but strength makes up for it. So again, not somebody that's going to blow you away and be able to play a tackle up here, but he has the strength to be a guard. And then I disliked their 3rd round pick, Tay Felton, the wide receiver from Maryland. He was a 3rd-team AP All-American, 1st-team Big Ten All-American. He just wasn't a need when defense has been. I mean, you still have really good wide receivers on this team, and you had enough weapons to really give J.J. McCarthy, who seems like he's going to be the starter in Minnesota. Now, what Aaron Rodgers decides to do, if he's going to take the Brett Favre path and go to Minnesota, or if he's going to sign with the Steelers, or if he's just not going to play, who knows? You had enough weapons for J.J. McCarthy. I like the protection pick. Okay, I can overlook that, but the defense was really
struggled at the end of the year. So, I mean, they go out and they get Kobe King, who I do like as a linebacker from Penn State. They got him in the 6th round, but 3 out of the 5 picks they had was offense.
With the 4th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select.
Were you guys excited for the New England Patriots to come up? Because you know I'm going to spend the most time here. And it's not because I'm playing favorites, though I am. It's because I know the most information about most of these, and you're going to be surprised at some of the takes I have for what they picked. So the New England Patriots brought in a really solid class. It's an A- from me. I've seen a lot of A's go out for them. I've heard a lot of people say they had the best draft, which is, I don't think they necessarily had the best draft, but they got good character players and they fill needs. The late rounds had a few questions of what they were trying to pick up then, and I'm not sure that I completely understand some of them. I really like Will Campbell. I really like Travion Henderson. I understand the pick when they did it. I really like Joshua Farmer, their 4th round defensive tackle pick. Braden Swinson, the LSU teammate of Will Campbell, picked in the 5th round. I really like Jared Wilson, a round 3 pick. I mean, they really did go out and get things that needed to be filled in. Again, the running back, maybe not necessarily the biggest need in that 2nd round. Probably could have gone a wide receiver. But I understand the pick. Before I go into all the dislikes and stuff like that, Will Campbell, we all heard the build-up, the short arms, etc. He was a safe pick. I will admit that he could be a guard by next season too, which is something I hope it doesn't happen. But his attitude is what exactly that you want to bring into this team. I'm going to die for my quarterback. I'm going to die for my teammates. Again, nobody really hopefully expects him to do that, but it's the right attitude of, hey, I'm going to put everything out there so that way we can be successful. It's definitely too early, but definitely a Patriot way of thinking. Henderson, again, I was surprised a little bit. I felt a wide receiver was more of a need right then and there, but he can start from day one. I liked him better than Jenkins, his teammate. My only worry is the size for a full workload. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but I believe he's perfect for McDaniels type scheme. So Josh McDaniels, I think, is going to do really well with him in his offense. Joshua Farmer, he visited the Patriots. It was well known for that. They traded back into the 4th round to get him, so they liked him. He's very much like Christian Barmore, so he makes the perfect cover for him should Barmore not be healthy again this year. We really want to see Christian Barmore back on that defensive line, but Josh Farmer was very much in that mold. Braden Swinson, I think this was an absolute steal at pick 146. He had 2nd or 3rd round talent according to a lot of the scouts that I read and people that I've talked to. He can manhandle blocking tight ends and has great agility. He can be somewhat off balance sometimes, but he does have really good agility for a defensive end. And then Jared Wilson was the best center in the draft and will most likely start as a backup with Bradbury kind of being in-house right now. If he can't go back to what he was doing, Jared Wilson can definitely step into that center role. Now, there's also talk about him being a guard. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. I think the Cole Strange experiment is almost up in New England. I think they're going to give him the offseason and give him the preseason to kind of really see what he can do. But I think you have some coverage there that if you choose to get rid of him, they already didn't pick up his option. So that has come up since I've been recording all this. So he won't be back next season. I think this is it for him no matter what, even if he makes it through the season. Now, my dislikes, the first dislike I'll tell you is Julian Ashby. I just don't think you need to draft a long snapper because he's not going to be any sort of offensive lineman help in any way, shape, or form. They did get rid of Joe Cordona, so that was the last remaining Super Bowl champion off of the roster. But Julian Ashby, again, I don't think you needed to draft him. And the other one that's going to shock a lot of people is Kyle Williams. I wasn't sold with him at the pre-draft episode that I did. The reason being is, look, I've heard all the positives since the end of the draft. Has great separation, tons of touchdowns last year. He made Travis Hunter look bad when he was trying to guard him. I hope he's a huge success. But in my pre-draft, I said that he was going to be a bust. I don't necessarily. I hope that he's not, because he's obviously on the New England Patriots. The separation part of all of this, we're talking about college. And yes, he's played some NFL talent in the teams that he's played against. But the separation is not going to happen like it did in college. Cornerbacks in the NFL are too good. So if you're expecting him to just blow by everybody, it's not going to happen. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that I wanted the Patriots to go get a 6'2", 6'4" wide receiver. They don't have a ton of tall, go up and get the ball wide receivers. They have some people that can get past people. There wasn't a ton of really tall, really fast wide receivers in this draft, but they don't have someone that can go up and get a jump ball if need be. What if Drake May has to throw one up? What if Drake May he's still young, he's still going to do things like that. So what's going to happen? You don't have that player for it. So you're trusting them to get open. And we didn't see a lot of it from the players last year. Obviously, Kyle Williams is new, and we'll see what that brings. But again, I'm not sure that's what they needed as far as a wide receiver. I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong. The Patriots also picked up Land Larison, the running back from UC Davis. Great out of the backfield running back that can catch the ball a lot. And Efton Chisholm, a wide receiver from Eastern Washington. He broke all of Cooper Kupp's records. Those two were picked up as undrafted free agents. So there's a chance that they make the roster. I would probably say that they're going to be on the practice squad first.
With the 9th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select.
Now, if I had a second favorite team, it would be the New Orleans Saints, since I spent some time in New Orleans, seen a couple of Saints games. They are second to none, especially where that stadium is in that city. I will always love New Orleans. And I know what you're all saying is, come on, let's hurry this up. Let's get through the rest of the teams. I hear you. So the Saints drafted for need. Some of the picks were not the direction that I thought they would go, so I kind of went with a B-. I really like the Kelvin Banks offensive tackle pick in round 1 at pick 9. He's a solid offensive tackle. Was my backup choice if Campbell wasn't available or if they were going to trade down for something. He was moved in the top 10 with his pre-draft workouts, so we'll see if that has anything to do with bearing, if maybe somebody reached for him, or I should say if the Saints had reached for him. I didn't like the quarterback they picked, Tyler Shaw. I don't know if that's how you say it, so I'm not going to say it again, but it's Shough. I've heard it pronounced a bunch of different ways. I still think the Saints should have drafted Shedeur Sanders. He, the quarterback they got, because I'm not going to say his name again, has injuries from last year and is a little bit injury prone. Derek Carr, their quarterback now, is hurt and doesn't look like he's going to play most of the season. So where do the Saints go from this? Are they going to make a trade at some point? Are they going to get one of the Cleveland quarterbacks that they have so many of in that room? But again, I think the Saints did themselves a little bit disservice by going with that.
I don't know what that is.
Pick
Here's the commissioner.
In the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select.
So the New York Giants, I'm going to give them an A+. And the reason why I'm going to give them an A+ is pretty simple. One, Abdul Carter was probably the best prospect in the draft. I'd say he's 1A with Travis Hunter. I think with selecting Carter, the Giants now have the best defensive line in the NFL. They then traded back into the first round to go get Jackson Dart. I said at the pre-draft that he was going to be the best quarterback that comes out of this class. I still think he has the ability to do that, even though he went to the Giants. I really like Darius Alexander, the defensive tackle from Toledo. Cam Skattebo, the running back from Arizona State that everybody loved throughout the playoffs and throughout the season. Great pick. Marcus Imbo, the tackle from Purdue in round 5. Corey Black, the 7th round pick. He's a cornerback. Again, I just think this is a great amount of talent that had such success in college that, I don't see a lot of these guys not making it. They may not be the best franchise out there, but boy, they're their draft was a home run.
With the 7th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select.
And the New York Jets are up next, and for a franchise that I want to fall flat on their face, they made some good picks in this draft. They picked a raw offensive tackle in Armand Membu. So he went 7th, had, again, a lot of good pre-draft workouts that moved him up on the list. They also selected Mason Taylor, the tight end out of LSU, who is Jason Taylor's son. So a Dolphins legend is now having their son drafted to the Jets. I'm sure that'll go over well at family dinners. And then they made a pick of Arian Smith in the 4th round, wide receiver out of Georgia, who I do not like because I went through a lot of scouting reports and tried to read up on him quite a bit. There's one consensus, is that he's fast, which is great. But then they say he has trouble holding onto the ball. He drops the ball a lot. He doesn't separate all that much. He can't cut that much. His acceleration isn't great. It was a lot. Like, I tried to find positives for him so I could give him kind of like the compliment sandwich, and I just couldn't. He's fast. That's what I got for you.
With the 31st pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select.
So Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles do it again. I gave him an A- because there was a couple of things I didn't like about the draft, but overall, I think they did exactly what they needed to do because of the mass exodus that came from a Super Bowl winning team. They ended up selecting Jahad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama. Good pick at that point in time. Wasn't my favorite pick, but again, they're the Super Bowl champions. They can do what they want. I really like the pick of the safety from Texas in the 2nd round, Andrew Makuba. I think he may be undersized for a safety, but he makes big plays no matter where he is. He's able to tackle in the open field. He lays big hits on people as well. He comes up at big moments like he did in the college football playoff. Drew Kendall, the center from Boston College in round 5. A steal in the 5. He'll be a solid backup and probably will start eventually to keep that long line of famous Philly Eagle centers intact. And then Kyle McCord, they picked in the 6th round as well. So a quarterback that you would think that they don't need right now, but he'll have a chance to sit and learn. He's a pocket passer, so he's not the Jalen Hurts type of quarterback, but he can throw the ball. He led the NCAA in passing yards this past year. Again, for a 6th round pick, I mean, you're not risking a ton if he doesn't start for your team. But, I mean, I think he has the ability to eventually if you're looking for that pure pocket passer. And my only dislike out of all this was another round 5 pick, Mac McWilliams, the cornerback from Central Florida. He was picked very early. I felt that he was going to be there probably in the 7th round. He went from a University of Alabama, Birmingham to USCF. He allows too much space to receivers too often. So, again, he's going to have to work with some veterans and some coaching to see if he can kind of fix that. But, again, I think he was a 7th round talent that ended up going early in the 5th.
With the 21st pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select.
So the Pittsburgh Steelers next on my list. There was an amazing / sad story with the 1st round pick, Derek Harmon. He was picked 21st, went up on stage, shook his hand, did all those fun things, immediately flew to see his mother and let her know that he was picked in the 1st round of the NFL draft. And then she passed away the next morning. So one of those stories that just, somebody held out for, amazing news or held out for whatever reason. That seems like that's the case here. And again, I wish Derek Hammond all the best in the NFL, and my condolences for his loss. Pittsburgh is getting a B+. I really like Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa. He was their 3rd round selection. He's a big bruising back, someone that is going to punish you for trying to tackle him. He has a touch of finesse, but he can run over 2nd-level defenders. So if he's getting past the linebacker into that next level, and you're a safety that's there or a cornerback that's there, you better watch out because he's going to run you over. I didn't like Yahya Black, the defensive tackle from Iowa, their 5th round pick. He just doesn't feel like an NFL pass rusher. He's more suited to stop the run. That may be what he's good for, and that may be what his career is, running a running down, defensive tackle. But, I wasn't sure that was the right pick there. They went out and got Will Howard, a cornerback from Ohio State, in round 6. So does that necessarily answer the quarterback question? It doesn't, but Aaron Rodgers is still out there. And again, who knows what Aaron Rodgers is going to do at this point in time.
With the 11th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select
San Francisco 49ers up next, and I gave them a B-. With a down year last year with a ton of injuries, the 49ers were looking to retool a little bit with a few key positions, but I don't think they're totally out of the race for a Super Bowl. I think they still have a few changes in skill positions. They went out and got a couple of wide receivers during this draft. I like the first-round pick of Mykal Williams, the edge rusher from Georgia. They picked him 11th overall. He was the second-team All-SEC. He's a pass rusher that explodes out of his stance. More than 30% of his tackles in college were for a loss. So 1/3 of his tackles were behind the line of scrimmage. He tends to be upright when rushing, so good offensive linemen, strong offensive linemen are going to be able to push him off the block and kind of keep him from getting into the backfield. Again, coaching for something like that. I really like Upton Stout, the cornerback from Western Kentucky. They picked at 100th overall in the 3rd round. He's smooth backpedaling corner that has great anticipation skills. He's a little undersized. That's probably why he dropped a little bit. Their 5th-round pick, Marquez Sigel, the safety from Kansas State. He's a little slow reacting for a safety. He's not a great tackler. He has a well-respected work ethic, so he's going to put in the work to get better. I just don't like him right now. I just don't think he helps this team in the immediate future, maybe in a couple of years if he sticks around. And then Curtis Rourke, the quarterback from Indiana, an injury-prone quarterback. Again, he'll back up Brock Purdy.
With the 18th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select
another really great draft, the Seattle Seahawks at an A-. A lot of the late-round picks seem to have more hits than misses. So they seem to have a complete draft to me, top to bottom. I really like the first-round pick with Gray Zabel, the guard from North Dakota State. He was picked 18th overall. Zabel has played 4 out of the 5 offensive line positions. He has tremendous strength to move people around. He turned down a ton of NIL money to stay at North Dakota State with his brother, who plays tight end. This is one of those picks that it's not the sexiest pick, but he is going to start for many, many years. He's just going to be one of those anchors on an offensive line. I really liked Torrey Horton, the wide receiver from Colorado State that they got in the 5th round. He dropped due to a knee injury. He has good start and stop, and he has great cutting ability. So he's going to be able to get free and get some catches. Maybe not a ton of yards after the catch, but he'll be able to make, a ton of catches going forward. They picked up a fullback from Alabama in the 5th round, Robbie Oates. Again, not the most sexiest of positions and stuff like that, but again, I don't think he's a bad player. Damian Martinez, the running back from Miami. Mason Richmond, offensive tackle from Iowa. I really like all of these picks. I don't really think any of them were taken really that bad. I'm not a huge fan of Jalen Milroe. I don't like it. Seems like he lied to the media when he said, the Seahawks said I was the best quarterback available in this draft. And then they asked the GM. He's like, yeah, no, I never said that. He has the arm strength for the NFL. But in SEC play, he threw 5 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So with the best competition that he was playing, he played the worst. So what does that translate to in NFL now?
With the 19th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select.
So the Buccaneers made some questionable picks. Not talent-wise, but just at the times they did. They only really picked 3 total positions. They got 2 wide receivers, 2 cornerbacks, and 2 edge rushers. Emeka Egbuka, there we go. Wide receiver from Ohio State, picked 19th overall. And then David Walker, an edge rusher in Central Arkansas in round 4, are the 2 ones I really like. Ben Morrison, the cornerback from Notre Dame, their 2nd-round pick. I wasn't a huge fan of that pick then. And Tez Johnson, the other wide receiver they picked up from Oregon in round 7, Tez Johnson is like 150 pounds, which he's tiny for the NFL. Now, he's very quick. He can get away from people and stuff like that, but I have a feeling he's going to get hurt more often than not. Egbuka, he's a great talent. I love his game during the college football playoff. He was making catches and stuff like that. Mike Evans still. And they brought back Chris Godwin on a pretty decent-sized contract, who was also coming off of an injury. So now maybe that's the coverage for that. I'm not really sure, but why did you need 2 wide receivers? So, again, I don't think that was a need that they had. Walker is a first-team AP FCS All-American. I went over FCS earlier. A force getting through blockers. He can be a steal in that that 4th round. Ben Morrison, injury-prone, below-average tackler. If he can stay healthy, he has a chance to start someday, but he's been injured throughout his college career. And I mentioned Tez Johnson's size before. One of the more interesting undrafted free agent pickups comes from the Bucs as well. So not only do they have what is probably the smallest weight-wise person in the NFL, they brought in the heaviest. Desmond Watson, a defensive tackle from Florida, went undrafted, signed with the Buccaneers. He is 6'6", 464 pounds. I hope I said that slow enough and clear enough. 464 pounds. That is the heaviest person that will ever play in the NFL if he makes the team.
First pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select.
Now we come to the Tennessee Titans, who had the first overall pick. They get an A-. I believe that they have found their franchise quarterback. I think Cameron Ward is going to be there for quite a while. I think he's going to play pretty well. I don't necessarily think he's going to be a superstar. And again, we can get into the whole thing of what is a superstar, what isn't. That's for another show. A lot of great picks that if they pan out, this team could be a contender from this draft. I really like Kevin Watson Jr., the safety out of Penn State. They got him in round 3. Gunnar Helm, the tight end from Texas, round 4. The one dislike I have is Shamir Dyke, the wide receiver from Florida, was also round 4. But Watson, he did pick up an injury last year. He has good NFL size. He attacks blockers really well, and he's great in run support. So you're going to have a team that kind of struggled against the run last year, have some talent in the back end of their defense that can help with that. Gunnar Helm overcame injury at the combine. He literally played through or did all of the drills with an injury, performed well. He can run complex routes. He's dangerous in the open field. So if you can get him in open space, he's going to be able to get past you. So he's not as slow as most tight ends would probably. He's got some good speed to him. Dyke, he's a niche receiver. He has good hands, but his routes get undercut a lot. He's not coming back to the ball all that much. I watched highlights over and over again, especially when they drafted him. He just seems to stand still and let the ball come to him. He plays at one speed. He has more career drops than touchdowns. So he has 17 career drops in college and only 11 touchdowns. So again, that doesn't bode well as a wide receiver. And he went in the 4th round. Now, obviously, again, what do I know at the end of all of this? But from the film that I see and everything that I'm talking about, I mean, that your job is to catch the ball. If you're going to keep dropping it, you're obviously not going to get that many touchdowns. And his stats prove that here.
29th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select.
And we've made it. We've made it to the end. We have the Washington Commanders, and then that's it. I'm probably going to wind down and just end it right after that because you're probably sick of me. But before then, we do have to hear about these Commanders. So the Commanders made it to the NFC Championship game, which was a surprise. Jaden Daniels, Rookie of the Year, great building block for them. I gave him a B- here. Now, they only had 5 total picks. And their first-round selection of Josh Connerly Jr., the tackle out of Oregon, is a good safe pick. He's going to be a solid offensive lineman for quite a few years. But they have Laramie Tunsil and Brandon Coleman already. They even traded for Laramie Tunsil. So I wasn't really understanding the pick. So I put a dislike on that just simply because I think there was other things that they could have went and picked up. Now, I really like Trey Amos from Ole Miss. He was their second-round pick. He made the jump from Louisiana, Lafayette, to Alabama, and eventually Ole Miss. He plays with a pro-style aggression, according to some scouts, but it's controlled, so he's not going out and getting a ton of penalties. So in all the games that he played in college, he allowed a sub 19% completion rate on deep routes. So he doesn't let the big play behind him. So that's something that Washington desperately needed in that secondary. And then Jalen Lane, the wide receiver from Virginia Tech, their 4th-round pick. He's great on vertical routes. He's a good run after the catch guy. He can break some tackles, but he needs to be better to coming back to the ball. Again, another guy that just kind of stands and waits for it. So you don't want to have undercutting of the routes or picks off that way, but another weapon for Jaden Daniels in Washington. And with that, we've made it to the end of the episode. I wish all the new NFL players all the best of luck. I thought it was pretty cool that the Patriots had the Mr. Irrelevant pick, and I hope he does really well, obviously, with Brock Purdy being kind of the new standard of Mr. Irrelevant. We'll see what the cornerback Kobe Minor can do. And if any of them listen to this, use it for motivation if I disliked the pick of you or anything else like that. So, again, an exciting time for the NFL. Really exciting time for a lot of these young men who are coming up and now into this league. So, again, no matter where you are, if it's a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever, enjoy it.